You were not born thinking you were less. You were trained into it. Since you were a child, the world kept sending you the same message in different costumes. Speak up, be more social, be more outgoing, stop being so quiet. Teachers praised the kid who raised their hand fast, even when the answer was wrong. Managers promoted the person who talked the most in meetings, not the one who thought the deepest. Friends joked that you were too serious, too quiet, or overthinking things. Over time, you started to believe that your natural state was a problem to fix. You did not see that the game was rigged from the start in favor of noise, not substance. Culture worships loud confidence because it is visible. It looks strong on camera. It sells well in self-help books and social media clips. Psychologist Cameron Anderson and his colleagues found something dark, dominant. Loud behavior creates an illusion of competence, even when skill is missing. In other words, people who speak with force are often seen as more capable than they actually are. The room mistakes volume for value. This is the lie you were raised inside. If you are naturally calm, quiet, or slow to speak, you get tagged as shy, unsure, or weak, even if you understand things far better than the loudest person in the room. The problem is not that loud people exist. The problem is that the entire system rewards their style and punishes yours. Jerome Kagan, a famous psychologist, ran long-term studies on children. He found that some kids are born more sensitive to stimulation. Their heart rate jumps faster. Their brain reacts more strongly to noise, new people, and pressure. Susan Cain later used this and other research to show that introversion is not a flaw, it is a temperament. It is about how strongly your nervous system reacts to the world. You are not bad at people. Your brain just hits the red line sooner. But schools are built for kids who do not overheat. Classrooms reward quick answers, group projects, and constant interaction. Quiet kids get labeled as shy, difficult, or disengaged, even when they are the ones actually paying attention. The lie of loud confidence, how you were trained to distrust yourself. Think about your early years. The teacher asks a question. Your brain starts working. You want to think it through. Meanwhile, 3 kids shoot their hands up instantly. The teacher picks them. Their answers are half-formed, but they get praised anyway for participating. You learn something deep without anyone saying it out loud. Thinking quietly is less valuable than speaking quickly. You hesitate next time. You wait to be perfect before you talk, and someone louder fills the gap. This is how your nervous system starts tying your natural style to punishment. Social pain instead of reward. These moments are small by themselves. Being interrupted, being talked over, being told to speak up when you already pushed past your comfort zone, being ignored when you finally do say something. Each event is a little electric shock to your self-belief. Over years, these shocks form a pattern. Martin Seligman, who studied learned helplessness, showed that when animals are exposed to repeated stress they cannot control, they eventually stop trying to escape, even when a way out exists. Humans do the same thing socially. When your attempts to show up are repeatedly dismissed or awkward, your brain forms a rule. It is safer not to play. This is how learned low status builds itself in your mind. You enter a room and automatically rank yourself below others before a single word is spoken. You assume others are more interesting, more confident, more deserving to speak. You stand near the wall. You take up less space. You laugh at jokes you do not actually find funny, just to fill the silence. Your body posture, your voice, your eye contact, all bend to the script that got installed in you over years. The crazy part is that no one had to sit you down and explain it. It seeps into you just by living in a world that rewards loudness and misunderstands quiet. Part of the damage is something psychologists call affective mirroring, even if they use more technical terms. Over time, you start to experience yourself through how other people react to you. If they look bored when you talk, you decide you are boring. If they interrupt you, you decide what you said must not matter. If they tell you to lighten up or stop overthinking, you decide your seriousness is a problem. Their reactions become your mirror. The loud majority sets the frame. Quiet equals insecure. Outgoing equals confident. Instead of questioning that frame, you absorb it. You feel it in your stomach when you walk into a busy room. This is the first prison. You accepted their definition of confidence. You started chasing a version of yourself that does not fit your nervous system. You forced yourself to act more social, more talkative, more random than you naturally are. You left events drained and confused, thinking, why does this feel so fake? You thought the discomfort meant you were failing. In reality, it meant you were acting against your wiring. Research on temperament and energy shows that introverts pay a much higher mental cost for forced social performance. It is not just shyness, it is your brain chemistry burning out. Look at how society talks about improving you. The advice is always loud. Network more, speak more, brand yourself, market yourself, push yourself into more rooms, talk to more strangers, be more visible. The quiet person is always told to move toward noise. Nobody says, sharpen your silence. Nobody says, learn to control a room without saying much. Nobody teaches you that calm, slow, controlled presence often beats forced charisma in the long run. But research on status and power signals from people like Dacher Keltner and Michael Krauss shows something interesting. Calm, low-reactive individuals are often seen as higher status, not lower. The person who does not flinch, who does not rush to fill every silence, often holds more psychological weight. You were never shown this side of the map. You only saw the extrovert side because that is what sells. Think about social media. Platforms reward constant posting, constant talking, constant performance. People who feed on external validation thrive in that environment. They get likes, comments, applause. Their confidence becomes hooked on this feedback. If it goes away, they crash. You sit on the side, thinking you are behind, because you are not broadcasting your life. What you do not see is that you are not addicted to that same drug. You are running a different operating system, one that can build a much colder, more stable kind of confidence if you stop treating it like a disease. The most dangerous part is this. By constantly seeing yourself through their frame, you start to attack your own strengths. Your ability to think deeply becomes overthinking. Your carefulness becomes hesitation. Your sensitivity to details becomes too sensitive. Your need to recharge alone becomes antisocial. You are not just quiet in public. You start going quiet inside your own mind. You do not trust your first thoughts. You revise them 20 times. You hold back ideas until someone louder says a worse version, and then you hate yourself for staying silent. You are not lacking confidence. You are drowning it before it can stand up. This is not random. It serves a purpose for the systems around you. Schools like students who comply, follow standard paths, and do not question structure too deeply. Workplaces like employees who self-promote, chase visibility, and feed their performance metrics. Markets like customers who feel insecure and want to fix themselves. If you believed that your quiet, intense mind was already a strength, you would be much harder to control. You would not buy every course that promises to turn you into a social magnet. You would not shape your life around other people's reactions. You would live from internal standards, not external noise. That is dangerous to any system built on mass compliance. So you were trained to distrust your own nature, not through open attack, but through constant subtle pressure. Laughs, comments, side glances, performance reviews, group dynamics, comparison games. You learned that there is a right way to be confident and that you do not match it. You may have started labeling yourself with heavy words, socially anxious, awkward, broken, inferior. You built your identity around those ideas. You said things like, I am just bad with people, or I am not confident at all, forgetting that you have survived every social situation so far and learned from each of them, even if the learning was mostly about how not to get hurt. Here is the truth that cracks that training. Loud confidence is often just polished insecurity. It looks strong, but it depends on an audience. It needs constant reactions to stay alive. The person who cannot sit in silence, who cannot go a week without posting online, who panics when others are not giving attention, is not truly confident. They are just skilled at performing. Their power comes from outside. Yours does not have to. Your quiet nature lets you do what they cannot. Remain stable when things get tense. Observe without reacting. Hold your own standard even when others push theirs on you. The moment you start to see this, the frame shifts. You stop asking, "How do I become more like them?" and start asking, "How do I use what I already am?" That is where dark confidence begins. But to get there, you need to see your past clearly. You did not fail at confidence. You were never shown that there is more than one form of it. You were conditioned to see yourself as the bottom of the social ladder before you ever had a chance to define your own rank. The first step out of that cage is simple and brutal. Stop accepting their mirror as the truth. Their reactions say more about their biases than your value. You have been taught that quiet means insecure. Reality is harsher and more interesting. Quiet can mean many things. Fear, yes, but also control, calculation, respect, or indifference. People project their own stories onto your silence. They hate what they cannot read. That is exactly why your calm presence can carry so much weight once you stop apologizing for it. The lie of loud confidence has run your life long enough. The next chapters will show you what has really been happening in the background while you thought you were hiding. You were not hiding. You were training, overthinking, observation, and emotional radar. You think you have been wasting time in your head. You think you're overthinking. Your constant analysis of every conversation, every gesture, every small social detail is a weakness you need to kill. That is the story you have been sold. But something else has been happening in the dark, without your permission. While loud people were busy performing, you were running silent, high-level calculations on people. Every room you walked into became data. Every social mistake became a replay in your mind. You were not just suffering, you were training. Psychologist Susan Nolan Hoeksema studied rumination, the habit of turning thoughts over and over. She showed that when this attention is always aimed at your own flaws and fears, it fuels anxiety and depression. That is what you know too well. After a conversation, you run it on loop. Why did I say that? Why did they look away? Did I annoy them? You beat yourself down with your own processing power. But notice the structure of what your mind is doing. It is scanning details, reading reactions, tracking patterns. You have high cognitive monitoring. Your brain is built to watch closely. The problem is not the hardware, it is the target. You have been pointing that scanner only at yourself. Shift that lens outward, and everything changes. The same overthinking brain that tears you apart can become an elite tool for reading others. Research on social cognition and theory of mind by people like Simon Baron-Cohen and Uta Frith shows that some people naturally track mental states, moods, and intentions more than others. They watch eyes, tone, posture, and micro-movements. They form mental models. This person is annoyed. That person is nervous. That person is pretending to be confident. If you are quiet and observant, you have probably been doing this your whole life without naming it. You can feel tension in a room before anyone speaks. You can tell when someone is lying to themselves. You can sense when someone is attracted, threatened, insecure, or bored, even if they hide it well. Elaine Aron studied something called sensory processing sensitivity. People high in this trait process more information from their environment. They are more affected by noise, light, social pressure, and emotional conflict. That sounds like a curse when you are sitting in a loud party feeling drained and anxious. But think about the flip side. If your nervous system notices more, then with the right frame you can read more. The tiny change in a person's voice when they start to feel disrespected, the slight delay before someone answers, showing they are hiding something, the way a group's attention shifts when a certain person speaks. This is emotional radar. It is not magic. It is pattern recognition trained by years of silent observation. While you thought you were avoiding life, you were actually building a library of human behavior. Remember how many times you sat at the side of a room and just watched? You noticed who everyone looked at when they laughed. You noticed which jokes landed and which died. You noticed which person subtly led the group without being the loudest. You noticed how people's bodies tensed when someone made a passive-aggressive comment. Extroverts often miss these layers because they are too busy thinking about what to say next. You, on the other hand, ran simulations. If I spoke now, what would happen? If I stand here, who will approach? If I match their tone, will they open up? You may not have acted often, but mentally you rehearsed thousands of moves. That is not wasted time. That is reconnaissance. Soldiers do not just charge into unknown territory. They scout, they observe, they learn where the power sits, who controls what, where the threats and openings are. Your silence has been exactly that. You watched how status works, who interrupts who gets ignored, who everyone seems to defer to, even when they do not talk much. You notice that certain people do not chase attention, yet others keep bringing them into the conversation. At the time, you might have just felt envy or confusion. Underneath that, your brain was logging patterns. Stillness draws interest when it is backed by self-trust. That file is already stored in you. The problem is that you turned your emotional radar against yourself. Instead of using your sensitivity to understand other people, you used it to attack your own worth. Someone looks away while you talk, and your brain instantly fires. They are bored, shut up. Someone does not reply to a message, and your mind runs 30 scenarios where you did something wrong. Your system is hyper-tuned to possible threats, and because of your past training, you assume those threats are always about your failure. This is where the dark shift begins. If you keep the same sensitivity but change the story, your whole life tilts. Next time you enter a room, instead of asking, "How are they judging me?" ask a different question. What is actually going on here? Who seems tense? Who is faking their smile? Who keeps glancing at their phone? Who dominates space? Who seems ignored? Treat it like an experiment in power and emotion, not a test of your worth. You will notice that most people are not confident. They are anxious, scattered, and playing roles. The loud guy who seems comfortable may not hold eye contact when challenged. The social butterfly might keep changing topics because they cannot handle silence. You start to see through the surface. That is dark confidence's first resource, clear eyes. Overthinking has another hidden side, prediction. When you replay conversations, your brain is actually building models for what tends to happen next. That is why you can often sense drama before it explodes. Two people start interacting, and you feel, this will end badly. You see the signs, the slightly raised voice, the forced laugh, the step closer, the eyes narrowing. You know where it is going. In relationships, this makes you see patterns early. You can sense when someone's interest is fading. You can sense when they respect you less. The pain is that you often do not act on it, because your self-doubt talks over your instincts. You gaslight yourself, thinking you are paranoid, but your nervous system is usually right. Dark confidence is not about stopping your thoughts. It is about retraining them. Overthinking becomes a weapon when it serves decisions instead of fear. That means you give your mind a job. Read the room, not your scars. Let it scan others. Let it study how they talk, move, and react. Notice whose words change the energy in the space. Notice who everyone relies on when something goes wrong. Notice who jokes too much when they feel insecure. This is not about judging for fun. It is about mapping power and emotion, so you are no longer blind in social situations. While others stumble around reacting, you see the lines connecting them. You have also been training something else, restraint. You have bitten your tongue thousands of times. You have stopped yourself from saying the first thing that comes to mind. You have held back when angry, when hurt, when tempted to overshare. This has felt like weakness, like you are too scared to act. But there is a form of power hidden in that restraint. Not the anxious kind, but the deliberate kind. When you learn to separate the two, your presence changes. Many extroverted people struggle with this. They blurt things out. They overshare. They burn bridges in a single heated moment. You, on the other hand, have spent years training your impulse control, even if it came from fear. Once you add self-trust on top of that restraint, your words will land harder because you say less. Remember how many times you have left a room and thought about everything that happened. Every laugh, every look, every change in the mood. You punished yourself with that information, but you also collected something nobody can take. You already know more about social behavior than you think. You know what kind of jokes turn people off. You know what kind of comments instantly gather attention. You know which body language makes others nervous and which calms them down. You gained this from watching, not from reading a manual. That means it lives in your body, not just your mind. The forbidden idea is this: your silence was never empty. It was your training ground. while others were out there burning their social energy on shallow interactions. You were building a high-resolution map of how humans work. You did not call it that. You called it overthinking, anxiety, social awkwardness. But under that label was a constant flow of data. Who lied? Who bragged? Who pretended not to care? Who actually held the room? You might think you are behind because you were not the loudest voice at the party. In reality, you were the only person who saw the entire event from above. You have already done the part most people skip. You watched before you moved. That is why dark confidence fits you better than bright, loud confidence ever will. It does not ask you to become someone else. It asks you to use what your nervous system has already built. High sensitivity, deep observation, fast pattern recognition, restraint. Those are not bugs. They are code for a different style of power. The suffering came from fighting them, not from having them. From now on, treat your mind like a trained spy, not a broken machine. You do not need to stop your thoughts. You need to redirect them. From self-attack to situational awareness. From what is wrong with me to what is true about this place and these people. You will notice that the more you read others, the less frightening they become. They are no longer mysterious judges. They are predictable patterns. Once people become predictable, fear loses its grip. That is when your presence starts to settle into something colder, quieter, and far more dangerous than fake charm. In the next phase, dark confidence stops being just observation and starts becoming physical reality. Your brain has already been training in the shadows. Now the question is simple. How do you install self-trust into your nervous system so deeply that your body, your voice, and your eyes start to reflect what you already know mentally? Neurological momentum. How self-trust actually gets installed in your brain. Confidence is not magic. It is not an aura you are born with or a speech you tell yourself in the mirror. At the core, it is a belief your nervous system holds. I can handle this. Psychologist Albert Bandura called this self-efficacy. He found that this belief does not come from positive thinking. It comes from direct experience. When you do something hard repeatedly and survive, your brain updates its model of you. It starts to predict success instead of failure. That prediction then changes how you act, which changes how people respond to you, which feeds back into your belief. This is neurological momentum. Think of a time you actually felt sure of yourself. It was probably in a narrow area at first. Coding, gaming, drawing, lifting, music, problem solving, fixing things. Maybe it was not social at all. In that space, you move differently. You do not hesitate as much. You do not over-explain. You just act. That feeling is not random. Your brain has seen you succeed there enough times that it expects you to do well again. Your posture is less tense. Your voice is more grounded. You notice fewer negative thoughts because your mind is busy executing, not doubting. That is self-efficacy in action. Neuroscience backs this up. Researchers like Michael Merzenich showed that the brain physically rewires itself through repetition and focused practice. This is neuroplasticity. Every time you push through resistance and complete something, you are not just collecting memories. You are reshaping the pathways that control your behavior and your expectations. When you lift a weight repeatedly, your muscles grow. When you make decisions and follow through, your self-trust grows in a similar way. Over time, your nervous system starts to associate action with survival, not danger. Here is where introverts secretly hold an advantage. Once you care about something, you can go deep. You can spend long, quiet hours practicing, thinking, refining. You do not constantly need social stimulation to feel alive. That means once you lock onto a domain and start stacking small wins, your growth can become intense. Each skill gain feeds your global self-view. Bandura's research shows that success in one area often leaks into others. You might start by building skill in the gym or in a technical hobby. After a while, you notice you stand a little straighter in public. Your brain has updated your identity. I am someone who can set a goal and hit it. This is the success self-trust loop. You take a small action. You succeed, even a little. Your brain stores that as evidence. Next time, you feel slightly more able, so you push a bit further. That creates more success, which raises your self-efficacy again. You become more likely to approach instead of avoid. Behavioral research on approach and avoidance shows that once approach behavior starts to win, it tends to keep growing. The danger is that the opposite loop is also real. Avoidance breeds more avoidance. Every time you back out of a social situation, your nervous system quietly notes, "We cannot handle this." That belief spreads. External validation breaks this loop. When your confidence depends on other people's reactions, your brain does not learn that you can handle life. It learns that you can temporarily control how people see you. Those are not the same. Deci and Ryan, who created self-determination theory, showed that motivation based only on external rewards is fragile. With social media and modern life, many extroverted personalities are locked into applause-based confidence. They feel fine as long as they get laughs, likes, compliments, or attention. Take that away, and their sense of self drops fast. Their nervous system never built true self-efficacy, only performance skills. Your goal is different. Dark confidence comes from anchoring belief inside your own nervous system so deeply that external reactions are just extra data, not oxygen. To do this, you start small and specific. Pick actions that are hard enough to stretch you, but not so big that you collapse. Speak a clear sentence in a group when you would normally stay silent. Hold eye contact for 1 extra second before looking away. Ask one direct question instead of rehearsing a speech. Each time you do this, your brain logs, "We can do that." No one died. The fear shrinks a little. Neuroplasticity means that even these tiny changes, repeated often, will shift how your body reacts in similar situations. This is where your overthinking brain actually helps. You can rehearse actions in your mind before you do them. Sports psychology shows that mental rehearsal activates similar brain circuits as real practice. When you imagine yourself walking into a room, speaking calmly, and holding your posture, you are priming your nervous system. Then, when you actually do a small version of that, the experience lands even stronger. After enough cycles, your default reaction in social spaces stops being pure panic. There is still anxiety, but it is mixed with familiarity and a quiet memory. We have done similar things before. Notice what happens to your body language when your internal model upgrades. When you believe you can handle something, your shoulders relax, your breath deepens, your eyes scan without darting. You do not fidget as much. Studies on nonverbal power signals show that people read this without knowing. They sense calm and control. They respond to you as if you have higher status. That response then reflects back into you and further confirms your self-view. This is another part of neurological momentum. The outside world starts to mirror the confidence you built inside, even if you are not loud. Contrast this with someone who depends on external validation for confidence. They walk into a room scanning for approval. Who is looking at me? Who is laughing at my jokes? Who is ignoring me? Their nervous system spikes when they get attention and crashes when they do not. Over time, this trains a kind of social addiction. Their brain treats attention like a drug. Many extroverts never escape this cycle. They seem confident, but if you remove the people, their sense of self collapses. Dark confidence is the opposite addiction. You get hooked on keeping promises to yourself. Every time you act before your fear finishes speaking, you teach your nervous system a new rule. Fear says, stay quiet, stay small. You move anyway, even a little. You speak, even if your voice shakes. You stay in the room, even if you want to flee. When you survive, your brain cannot lie to you as easily. It has to include this new data. That is how self-doubt slowly loses its absolute power. It does not disappear, but it can no longer claim to be the only voice. The important part is that you do not wait to feel confident before you act. That feeling comes after action, not before. Bandura's work makes this clear. Belief follows proof. Your nervous system needs evidence, so you give it evidence daily, on a small scale. This is not fake it till you make it. This is do it till your brain has no choice but to accept that you are capable. Once this momentum starts, introverts can accelerate faster than people who always chase crowds. You can use your love for depth and routine to lock in habits that keep building self-trust. You can train, read, build, create in silence. Each completed project, each session of practice, Each difficult conversation had, instead of avoided, stacks onto the same identity. I am someone who does what I say I will do. That identity does not shout. It does not need to. It radiates through tiny, controlled movements. Over time, this changes how you enter rooms. You no longer arrive asking, "Do they approve of me?" Your nervous system sits on a different base question. Can I hold myself here? The answer is yes, because your history says so. That does not mean you never feel awkward or anxious. It means that those feelings lose their power to decide your moves. You have installed something heavier beneath them. Dark confidence is built in this invisible way. No grand speeches, no sudden transformations. Just thousands of small acts where you choose action over delay, truth over performance, aligned effort over empty noise. While others chase applause, you are training your nervous system to stay stable under pressure. That stability is rare, and humans are drawn to what is rare. In the next chapter, this internal shift meets something deeper. You will see why pretending to be someone else kills this momentum, and how owning even your darkest traits and urges can turn your quiet nature into a clean, solid weapon. Authenticity, shadow integration, and the weaponization of silence. You have tried to fake it. You forced yourself to act more outgoing, to laugh louder, to keep conversations going when all you wanted was silence. You said yes when you wanted to say no. You stayed longer than you had energy for. Each time, you thought you were doing what confident people do. But you walked away feeling empty, fake, and even weaker. There is a reason for that. Psychologists Michael Kernis and Brian Goldman studied authenticity and found that living out of alignment with your true traits and values does not make you stronger. It drains you. It raises anxiety and lowers stable self-esteem. In simple terms, when your actions and your nature fight each other, you pay the price. Introverts pay double. Your brain already burns more energy processing stimulation. When you add the strain of acting like a different person, your system overheats. That is why pretending to be extroverted for too long leaves you feeling hollow and angry at yourself. You are not just tired. You are in conflict. Part of you is performing to gain approval. Another part is watching from the back of your mind, thinking, "This is not me." That inner split kills dark confidence at the root, because real confidence rests on self-respect, and you cannot respect yourself while constantly betraying your own nature. This is where shadow integration comes in. Carl Jung used the word shadow to describe the parts of yourself you deny, repress, or are ashamed of. For many quiet people, the shadow holds their aggression, ambition, anger, competitiveness, stubbornness, and desire to dominate. You were told those traits are bad, especially in a reserved person. So you push them down. You tried to be only kind, only understanding, only low maintenance. You let others talk over you. You let people cross your boundaries. You told yourself you were being good, while secretly building resentment. When you repress these darker traits, they do not vanish. They leak out sideways: passive-aggressive comments, silent treatment, self-sabotage, secret fantasies of power you never admit. You might replay arguments in your head where you finally say what you wanted to say. You might obsess over revenge but never act. You live with a split between your surface self and your hidden self. Dark confidence requires these parts to be on the same side. That does not mean you become cruel. It means you admit the full range of what you are capable of, including your hunger for respect and control over your own life. Integration starts with raw honesty. Admit that you do not just want to be accepted. You want to be taken seriously. You want to be seen as strong. You want to stop being the person everyone assumes will be fine with anything. Admit that you feel anger when people interrupt you, that you feel envy when you watch others speak freely, that you feel ego when you do something better than others. These feelings are not the problem. Lying about them is. When you own them, you can direct them. When you deny them, they direct you from the dark. Once you stop fighting your own nature, your system starts to align. Your natural quiet becomes a choice, not a cage. Your ambition stops turning inward as self-hate and starts turning outward as standards. You stop tolerating people who drain you. You stop apologizing for having limits. This alignment feeds authenticity. Kernis's research shows that authenticity strongly predicts stable self-esteem because you are no longer spending energy pretending. You know who you are, what you want, and what you will not accept. That clarity shows up in your face, your voice, and yes, in your silence. Nonverbal dominance research from people like Joe Navarro and Michael Krauss shows that high-status individuals display predictable physical patterns. They take up space without fidgeting. Their movements are smooth, not jerky. They hold eye contact calmly, not aggressively. They are not easily startled by noises or social tension. They use stillness as a signal. When you install self-trust and authenticity, these patterns start to appear without forcing them. You no longer shrink when someone looks at you. You no longer laugh nervously every time there is a pause in the conversation. Your silence stops being a sign of fear and starts to feel like a test the other person is trying to pass. Silence, when intentional, creates pressure. Most people cannot handle it. They rush to fill it with words, jokes, explanations, anything to avoid feeling judged or unseen. When you can sit in that same silence and feel calm, you hold the power. You are no longer chasing their reaction. They are chasing yours. This flips the entire social frame. Dark confidence uses this deliberately. You answer slowly. You do not explain yourself more than needed. You let others show their cards first. You listen more than you talk, but your attention is sharp. People sense that you are not absent. You are present and watching. Scarcity psychology explains why this works. Henry Tajfel's research on group behavior showed that humans overvalue what feels rare, exclusive, or hard to get. If your attention is constantly available, reacting to every message, always online, always saying yes, people subconsciously rate it as cheap. If your presence is selective, if you appear less often but fully when you do, your value rises. This is not a trick. It is how the human mind works. We respect what is not constantly chasing us. Your quiet nature already makes you less available. Instead of seeing that as a weakness, you can use it as status. You do not show up everywhere. You do not talk to everyone. You choose who gets your time. You leave events when your energy is done, without guilt. You are not rude. You are precise. Over time, people notice. They realize that when you are in a conversation, you are actually there, not half scrolling your phone. They realize you do not waste words. Your yes means something because your no is real. Weaponized silence does not mean sulking or punishing people by going quiet. That is still insecurity. True weaponized silence is calm, open-eyed stillness. When someone tries to provoke you, you do not jump. When someone gossips, you do not rush to join. When someone acts like they are above you, you do not scramble to prove yourself. You just watch. You let them reveal themselves. This non-reaction puts you outside their frame. They cannot easily pull you into their emotional storm. That distance is power. As your shadow integrates, your boundaries become clearer. You do not need to shout to defend them. A simple, steady no is enough. When someone crosses a line, your face, tone, and body all send the same message. This is not acceptable. You do not bargain your standards for approval. This makes many people uncomfortable, especially those used to pushing quiet people around. They will test you more at first, but once they realize your silence is not fear, they adjust or leave. Both outcomes are good for you. Authenticity also changes how you speak when you do choose to. You stop trying to impress. You stop padding your words with fake cheerfulness. You say what you mean, in fewer words. Studies on communication and power show that concise speech is often read as more confident. Rambling, over-explaining, and constant disclaimers signal low status. When your inner world is aligned, you do not feel the need to decorate your thoughts as much. You trust that what you see and think has weight. Your goal is not to become untouchable. It is to become unmoved by cheap signals. Compliments no longer make you weak. Insults no longer break you. You register them, but they do not change your core sense of self. That core is now built on your own standards, your own actions, and your own integrated nature, light and dark. This is what makes silence so heavy. People can feel when someone is not desperate to prove anything. At this point, you can see the shape of dark confidence. It is not loud. It is not warm and bubbly. It is controlled, observant, and deeply self-owned. You accept that you are not for everyone. You accept that some will find you intense, intimidating, or too serious. You stop chasing those people. Your focus turns instead to building the inner protocol that keeps your nervous system steady no matter the room. That is what the final chapter gives you, a practical way to train your thoughts, your frame, and your presence into a new default. Dark Confidence Protocol. Training your intrusive thoughts, frame, and presence. Your mind will not suddenly become kind just because you understand all of this. Intrusive thoughts will still come. Self-doubt will still show up right before you speak, or right after you leave a room. The difference now is this: you are going to stop waiting for those thoughts to disappear. You are going to move while they talk. Cognitive behavioral models from people like Aaron Beck and David Clark show that thoughts do not need to be erased to lose power. They need to be disobeyed. Right now, your pattern is probably this: you feel an impulse to act, then your mind jumps in with 10 reasons not to. What if I sound stupid? What if they reject me? What if I fail? You pause, you think, and the window closes. Dark confidence lives in that gap. The protocol is simple and brutal. Shorten the gap between impulse and action. Do not give overthinking enough time to complete its script. Daniel Kahneman's work on System 1 and System 2 shows that slow, analytical thinking is useful for planning, but terrible for fast social acts. You have been applying your slow system to situations that needed quick moves. So you start training micro-actions. You set tiny rules. When a question forms in your head during a conversation, you ask it before counting to 5. When you want to join a group discussion, you step closer before your brain starts the usual lecture. When a message comes that matters, you reply with an honest line instead of drafting the perfect response for an hour. Each time you do this, you treat your fear like background noise. It is there, but it no longer runs the show. Exposure research shows that repeated approach to feared situations, in small controlled doses, makes the fear response shrink. This is not motivational talk. It is conditioning. Your nervous system learns by repetition that nothing catastrophic happens when you act. So you design your own exposures, not dramatic challenges, not forcing yourself to be the life of the party. Simple daily acts that match your nature but still stretch you. Making eye contact with the cashier and saying a clear thank you. Answering a question in class or in a meeting. Stating your opinion once without apologizing before or after. At the same time, you start controlling your social frame. Sociologist Irving Goffman described social life as a series of frames, unwritten rules that define what is happening and who is in charge. Most people just fall into whatever frame is handed to them. They act like guests in every situation, waiting to be told how to behave. Dark confidence flips this. You carry your own frame. Your frame is simple. I do not chase approval here. I observe, I choose, I respond slowly. This does not mean acting superior. It means holding your internal state steady while everyone else's is bouncing around. When people around you get anxious, you slow your breath instead of matching their panic. When someone tries to rush you into an answer, you pause, think, and then speak. When a group is desperate to fill every silence, you do not join the scramble. You sit in it calmly. Over time, others unconsciously adapt to your pace. They match your calm or they feel unsettled. Either way, you are leading the frame. Cameron Anderson and Dacher Keltner's work on status shows that the person who is less reactive often gains more influence. If you are always flinching at every comment, laughing too hard at every joke, or trying to fix every awkward moment, you become low status in the group's unconscious map. When you react only when it matters, your reactions gain weight. People pay attention when you finally speak, because you do not speak just to avoid discomfort. To make this real, you adopt a few identity rules. First, validation is internal by default. You judge your day not by how many people liked you, but by how many times you kept your own standards. Did you speak when it mattered? Did you say no when you needed to? Did you practice your craft? Did you stay honest? These become your scoreboard. Other people's reactions are data, not orders. Second, you stack domain-specific wins on purpose. Pick areas where you can build clear, trackable skill. It could be physical, like lifting or martial arts. It could be mental, like coding, chess, or complex problem solving. It could be creative, like writing or design. Train in these regularly and track your improvement. Each gain adds weight to your identity. I am capable. You carry that into every social context. Third, You practice low-output communication. Fewer words, higher precision. Before speaking, you ask, what is the cleanest way to say this? You drop fillers, fake laughs, and excessive disclaimers. You let people feel a bit of tension if they expect you to ramble. This is not about being cold. It is about respecting your own time and attention. When you do speak, you face the person. Keep your voice steady, and do not rush to fill the space after your sentence. Fourth, you use strategic silence and selective presence as your default power displays. You do not attend every event by reflex. You ask, does this serve me? Will this build connection that matters, teach me something, or give me data? If not, you keep your energy. When you are in a group, you resist the urge to jump in just to be seen. You step in when you have something real to add. If people talk over you, you stop, wait, and then either reclaim the floor calmly or let the moment go and remember that this is not a group worth investing in. Fifth, you keep integrating your shadow. When you feel anger or envy, you do not deny it. You ask, what is this showing me about my standards? Maybe your anger is telling you that someone disrespected a line you never clearly set. So next time, you set it. Maybe your envy shows you an ability you want to grow. So you train. Instead of sulking, your darker traits become fuel instead of poison. Over weeks and months of following this protocol, your identity shifts. You stop seeing yourself as the shy person trying to become confident. You start seeing yourself as the quiet person who chooses when to show power. You no longer rush to correct people's views of you. You let them think what they want, and let your actions over time rewrite their story or prove them wrong. That patience alone sets you apart. Dark confidence is not about performing dominance. It is about moving through the world like you finally know the truth. Your nervous system was never broken. It was preparing you. Every hour you spent overthinking gave you data. Every night you replayed conversations trained your emotional radar. Every day you felt out of place in loud spaces pushed you closer to your real path, not to outshout others, but to outsee them, outweight them, and outlast their need for constant validation. You are not here to impress every room. You are here to become the calm center that rooms slowly rotate around without knowing why. To do that, you do not need to become louder. You need to become more exact in your thoughts, in your actions, in your silence. That is dark confidence. And whether you like it or not, you have been training for it your entire life.